look for first before we start factoring? All right, GCF, very good. Which, remember, that means greatest common factor, right? We look for something we can take out of all of our terms. Good. Okay, after we have taken out the GCF, we then have to identify two specific numbers. Anybody remember what we call them? Very good. We identify the sum and the product. Where's the sum usually at? The middle, right? And then the product is usually right on the very end of the equation. Good. All right, and then once we've identified the sum and product, then we can start picking what numbers we're going to use as our factors, right? So remember, it has to multiply to give us this, add to give us this, right? That's what sum and product mean. So it has to be the product that add up to the sum. All right, and then once we've picked our numbers, then we just plug them into the parentheses, right? Okay, so now that we've gone back over those steps, let's look at doing a few together here. So like you guys said, the first thing we look for is a GCF. Do these three have a GCF? Anything we can take out of all of them? Three, okay. All right, so my GCF is 3. So that means I'm going to divide all of these by 3. So remember, then I put my 3 in front, and I have to write down what they're all going to become. Well, what's 3 divided by 3? 1. So it's just 1y squared, or y squared. Good. What's negative 39 divided by 3? Good. So I have negative 13y. And what's negative 90 divided by 3? Negative 30. All right, so I took out my GCF. Now what's my sum? Negative 13, good. And what's my product? Very good. All right, so now I'm going to have to break down that negative 30. So I'm asking myself, what are some things that multiply to give us 30? 3 and 10, good. Anything else? 5 and 6, okay. Anything else? Okay. All right, we're going to check and see if any of these work for us. Now, if they multiply to give me a negative, that means one of them has to be a negative, right? Okay, so 3 times 10, that's going to give me 30. Is 3 minus 10 going to give me negative 13? What about negative 3 plus 10? No. Okay, so it's not the 3 and 10. Okay. What about 5 and 6? What's 5 minus 6? Negative 1. And negative 5 plus 6 is still just going to give us a 1 or negative 1, right? So it's not the 5 and 6. Okay. 15 minus 2. What's 15 minus 2? 13. Okay, so we're getting close. We need it to be a negative 13. So which one do we want to be negative? The 15, right. A negative 15 plus 2 would give us the negative 13. Okay, so those are going to be the ones we pick. All right, what do I put out in front of everything? The GCF, right? So I'm going to have 3. My first parenthesis will be, oh, sorry, they used y instead of the next. Y minus 15 and y plus 2, right? So that's our factors. All right. Okay, same idea for number 2. First, we look for the GCF. Does this one have one? No, no GCF on this one. Okay, so then what's my sum? Negative 3. Now what's my product? 2. All right, what multiplies to give me 2? 2 and 1. All right, 2 times 1 is 2. 2 plus 1, though, gives me positive 3. And we need it to give us negative 3. So what are we going to do? Minus this, right? If they're both negatives, a negative times a negative will still give us positive 2. Negative 2 and negative 1 will give us negative 3. Good. So no GCF, so I'm just going to start making my parentheses, and we have an x minus 2 and an x minus 1. Good. Okay. All right, on number 3, first thing I look for, what's my GCF? Good. So I'm going to divide these. Okay, so I've got, what is 2 divided by 2? 1. So I just have 1x squared, or x squared, minus, what's 98 divided by 2? 49. All right. So I'm looking for my sum. What's my sum? No, it's not there, right? So it's 0. It's going to have to add to give us 0 because it's not there. What's my product? Negative 49. All right, so what will add to give us 0 and multiply to give us negative 49? What is it? Yeah, 7 and 7. So it multiplies to give us 0 and adds to give us negative 49. It's going to be a 7 and a negative 7, right? A negative times a positive is a negative, and those two add to give us 0. Good. So I put my GCF down first, and then I write my 2 parentheses. X plus 7 and x minus 7. All right. Got one more here on the front. So what am I looking for first? Good. What is my GCF? Okay, so we divide all these by 3. Okay, so here, just like all the others, my 3 is going to divide out, right? So I've got c squared. What's negative 6 divided by 3? Good. So I got negative 2c, and 15 divided by 3? Good. All right, so what's my sum? Good. And what's my product? 5. Okay. So there's only one thing that multiplies to give us 5, right? 1 and 5. Okay. So 1 times 5 is 5, but is 1 plus 5 negative 2? No. Okay. Well, it has to multiply to give me a positive. So these either both have to be positive or they both have to be negatives. What's negative 1 plus negative 5? Negative 6. Still didn't give me negative 2, right? So does this have factors then? No. So because this didn't work, this one was not possible to factor further. The only thing you are able to do factor-wise is pull out the GCF. So that's as far as you can take it. So you'd have your GCF with c squared minus 2c plus 5. All right. Flip it over onto the back. Okay. Number 5. What am I looking for first? GCF. So even though they asked it in a different way, they're still just asking us to factor. What is our GCF? 2y. Good. They all have a 2, and they all have at least one y. Very good. All right, so I take out a 2y. Okay, here my 2's divide out, right? So there was y cubed, and I took out one of the y's, so what's left? Good. All right, what's 16 divided by 2? 8. Y. Good. And then for that last one, 14y divided by 2y is 7. And there's no y's left, right? The y's divide out. Good. Okay, so what's my sum? Good. And what's my product? 7. All right, what's the only thing that multiplies to give me 7? 7 and 1. And is 7 plus 1, 8? All right, then we're good. So, GCF first, which is 2y. And then I have a y plus 7 and a y plus 1. Those are my factors. All right. Number 6. Again, it just wants the answers, it says, in factored form. So even though it asks it in a different way, we're still doing the same thing. What do I look for first? Does this one have a GCF? Okay, so I just look for sum and product. What's my sum? 0, right, it's not there in the middle. And my product is good. So it multiplies to give us negative 36 and adds to give us 0. What would that be? 6 and right. So just a hint, guys, anytime you have one of these where your sum is going to have to be 0, whatever numbers you pick have to be the same number, one of them positive and one of them negative, right? That's the only way it adds to give you 0. So you're looking for a number times itself, one of them positive, one of them negative. Good. So we'll have y plus 6 and y minus 6 as our two factors. All right, number 7. Again, just asks it in a weird way, but it still says to express it as factors. So I'm still doing the same thing. So what do I look for first? GCF. What's my GCF? Good. Alright, so I divide both pieces by 4. So I'll have a squared, because my a's divide out here. And what's 16 divided by 4? 4. Good. Alright, what is my sum? 0, right? We don't have anything in the middle. What's my product? 4. Alright, so what multiplies to give me 4? 2 and 2. But is 2 plus 2 0? No. But they had to multiply to give me a positive 4, right? So they have to both be positives, or they could both be negatives. A negative times a negative is a positive, but what's negative 2 plus negative 2? Negative 4, which is still not 0, right? So this one, not possible. So the reason this one is not possible is because if you notice right here, in the middle, I have a plus sign, right? Over here, we had a minus sign. So they'll always work out if there's a minus, but they're not going to work if there's a plus, because they have to be the same sign. And like we said here, we need one positive and one negative if we're going to get that 0. Okay? All right. Number 8. What am I looking for? Good. What is my GCF? 12. Good. All right, so I divide by 12. So I got y squared minus, what's 144 divided by 12? 12. Okay, so what's my sum? Right? And what's my product? Negative 12. All right, remember, we said if we need it to work, it has to be a number times itself, right? Are there any numbers that multiply times themselves to give us 12? No. So is this one going to be possible? No. 6 times 6 is 36. Right? Yeah. Plus, yeah. Yeah, it'll work for one or the other, but we can't get it to work for both. We can multiply something to give us 12, but it wouldn't give us 0, or we could add to get 0, but it's not going to give us the 12. So all we could do here is take out the GCF, just like here. All we could do is take out the GCF. Okay. All right, we got one more. Okay, this one says that a trim carpenter needs to apply crown molding around a rectangular window. The area of the window is shown on the diagram below. So this is the area of the window. Find the perimeter of the window in order for the carpenter to determine the amount of crown molding needed in terms of X. Okay, they said this was the area, right? Well, this window is what kind of a shape? Rectangle. How do you find area of a rectangle? Length times width. Okay. So I need something times something. Well, when we found all of our factors before, we end up with something times something, right? 2 parentheses. So all we need to do is factor this right here. So first thing we look for is a what? GCF. Do we have one? Okay. So what's the sum? Good. And what's the product? Good. All right. So what are some things that are going to multiply to give us 6? 3 and 2. Okay. Anything else? 1 and 6. Okay. And one of them has to be negative if it multiplied to give us a negative, right? But they add to give us a positive, so it's going to have to be the small number that's the negative, right? Okay, what is 3 plus negative 2? 1, not 5, right? So it's not those. Okay, what's negative 1 plus 6? 5. So these are the ones we're going to pick, right? So my 2 factors are going to be x minus 1 and x plus 6. So this is like my length and my width, right? Okay, so we found the length and the width for the area, but they asked us to do one more thing. They said that we need to find the perimeter. Well, how do you find the perimeter of a rectangle? We add up all the sides. Good. So perimeter means to add up all the sides. Well, how many lengths are there going to be? 2, right? So 2 of these x minus 1s plus how many widths are there going to be? 2. So 2 of these x plus 6s. And when we add them all together, that should be the perimeter, right? Okay? So I need to simplify. What should we do first here? Yes, distribute, yeah. So what's 2 times x? Good. And I have to multiply that 2 times the negative 1, which is going to give us negative 2. Good. All right. And then I also have to distribute here too, right? So what's 2 times x? Good. So plus 2x. And 2 times 6. Nice. Okay. Do we have any like terms? Which ones? The 2x. Okay, so what's 2x and 2x? Good. Anything else? Right. What is negative 2 plus 12?